Most people never lose power loudly. They lose it by being readable, reactive, and emotionally exposed. The moment others can predict you, you are already beneath them. Machiavelli understood this long before you were taught to be open. What follows is not confidence, it is concealment, a shift from expression to control. By the end, your presence will explain nothing, invite nothing, and quietly command respect. Power begins where explanation ends. Most people leak their intentions through words, facial reactions, tone shifts, and unnecessary justifications without ever realizing it. They believe clarity earns respect, but in reality, constant explanation erodes authority. When you explain yourself too often, you place others above you as judges of your decisions. You invite evaluation. You surrender control of the frame. The elite understand that mystery is not confusion, it is leverage. The less you clarify, the more others must interpret. And interpretation always favors the one who speaks less. An unreadable presence forces people inward. When you stop narrating your motives, your emotions, and your next move, others begin to project onto you. Projection creates fear, respect, or caution, depending on their own psychology. This is not manipulation, it is natural human behavior. The mind fills gaps automatically. Silence creates those gaps. A controlled silence, paired with steady posture and calm eye contact, signals that you are operating from a place of internal certainty rather than external validation. Most people rush to be understood because they fear being misjudged. This fear reveals dependence. A powerful individual accepts misunderstanding as a cost of authority. They know that being partially misread is safer than being fully decoded. Once people can predict you, they can manage you. Predictability is comfort, and comfort is never associated with dominance. Uncertainty, when calm and intentional, creates psychological gravity. This does not mean withdrawing or becoming distant in a social sense. It means choosing precision over volume. Every word you speak should either move the situation forward or reinforce your position. Anything else is noise. The disciplined mind does not react to fill silence. It allows silence to pressure others into speaking. And when others speak first, they reveal information, emotional states, and priorities without realizing it. Explanation is often a disguise for insecurity. Control is quiet because it does not need confirmation. When you speak less, people listen more closely. When you move slowly, people adjust their pace. When you do not rush to justify yourself, others assume you have reasons too solid to require defense. This is how authority is felt before it is acknowledged. Emotional control is not the absence of feeling, it is the refusal to let emotion dictate timing. Most people believe strength lies in immediate expression, reacting fast, speaking quickly, asserting feelings the moment they arise. In reality, this behavior exposes dependency on external events. When the environment controls your internal state, you are no longer in command. Those who operate at higher levels understand that power begins with delay. The pause between stimulus and response is where dominance is decided. Immediate reactions reveal internal instability. A raised voice, defensive explanation, visible irritation, these signals tell observers exactly where to apply pressure. Once someone knows what provokes you, they can guide your behavior without force. The disciplined individual removes this leverage by slowing everything down. They listen longer than expected. They respond later than assumed. This unpredictability disrupts the social rhythm and subtly places them in control of the interaction. Timing transforms emotion into strategy. Anger expressed instantly weakens your position. Anger released deliberately strengthens it. Silence after provocation unsettles people more than confrontation ever could. It forces them to question whether they miscalculated, whether you are unaffected, or whether something is being prepared. This uncertainty creates psychological tension, and tension favors the one who remains composed. Calm is not passive. It is pressure without movement. Most people fear silence because it feels like loss of control. They rush to fill it with words, explanations, or emotional signals to regain comfort. This is precisely why silence works. When you do not rush, others expose themselves. They clarify their intentions. They justify their actions. They reveal insecurity while you reveal nothing. Emotional restraint is not about hiding weakness. It is about refusing to broadcast it. Mastery of timing also means knowing when not to engage. Not every challenge deserves a response. Responding to everything places you on the same level as everyone else. Selective engagement communicates hierarchy. When you choose carefully what you acknowledge and what you ignore, you silently establish yourself as the one who decides relevance. Others adjust their behavior to earn your reaction. Over time, this control reshapes how people perceive you. Your presence feels grounded, deliberate, difficult to disrupt. They stop expecting immediate access to your emotions and begin approaching with caution. This is how emotional discipline evolves into authority, not through force, but through composure that cannot be rushed, provoked, or controlled. Your aura is defined less by what you pursue and more by what you refuse to chase. Most people unknowingly expose their psychological position through desire. The need for approval, reassurance, recognition, or quick validation reveals dependence. Dependence weakens presence because it signals that your internal state is regulated by external response. Those who hold power operate differently. They move as if outcomes are optional, not necessary for self-confirmation. This subtle detachment is interpreted by others as hidden strength. Human perception is deeply influenced by scarcity. What appears scarce is assumed to be valuable. When you do not chase attention, your attention becomes scarce. When you do not seek validation, your approval gains weight. Machiavelli understood that those who appear self-contained are often believed to possess leverage others cannot see. People assume there must be a reason you do not need what they need. This assumption alone elevates your position without a single word spoken. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means selective investment. You engage where it matters and withdraw where it does not. Most people overextend emotionally, socially, and mentally, diluting their presence. They respond to every message, react to every opinion, and pursue every opportunity out of fear of missing something. This creates transparency. Transparency creates predictability, and predictability eliminates mystique. An elite presence is defined by boundaries others can feel but not access. When you stop chasing, the dynamic reverses. Others begin to test your availability. They notice delays. They sense distance. Their behavior shifts subtly as they seek to regain equilibrium. This is not manipulation. It is a natural recalibration of social hierarchy. People unconsciously respect those who are not easily pulled into urgency. Urgency signals lack. Calm signals surplus. Detachment also protects clarity. Chasing clouds judgment. When you want something too badly, you negotiate against yourself. You tolerate disrespect. You accept unfavorable terms. The composed individual never appears rushed. They are willing to walk away without announcing it. This silent readiness to disengage is felt instantly by others. It creates leverage without confrontation and authority without assertion. Most people believe dominance comes from asserting importance. In reality, importance is assumed when you do not need to prove it. The less you seek acknowledgement, the more others wonder about your standards. Silence combined with restraint forces people to evaluate themselves in relation to you. They begin to ask unspoken questions. Why is this person unaffected? Why are they unmoved? Why do they not need this moment the way others do? This is the essence of an intimidating aura. It is not aggression or confidence theater. It is the quiet signal that you are internally complete. You do not beg situations to validate you. You allow situations to reveal themselves. And in that space, power accumulates naturally because very few people have the discipline to want less, and even fewer understand that wanting less is often how you gain more. Consistency is the signature of inner order. Most people believe intensity creates dominance, but intensity fluctuates. What truly unsettles others is emotional stability that does not bend to circumstance. When your tone, posture, and pace remain unchanged in praise, conflict, pressure, or opportunity, people sense a hierarchy they cannot easily challenge. They may not consciously recognize it, but they feel that you are anchored somewhere deeper than the moment they are reacting to. Unpredictable emotions are often mistaken for strength because they create noise. Noise draws attention, but attention is not authority. Authority is felt when nothing needs to be announced. A person who becomes excited when praised and defensive when challenged signals that their internal state is externally managed. Observers quickly learn how to influence them. Consistency removes this leverage. When nothing visibly shifts you, people lose their ability to test, provoke, or steer you. Emotional stability creates psychological asymmetry. In any interaction, the more stable individual sets the emotional temperature. If you remain composed while others escalate, their behavior begins to look excessive, irrational, or weak by contrast. You do not need to label it. The contrast speaks for itself. Calmness becomes a mirror that exposes instability without accusation. This is why consistent individuals often intimidate without intent. Consistency also signals self-trust. People trust those who trust themselves. When your reactions are measured and reliable, others assume your decisions are grounded in long-term thinking rather than impulse. This perception increases your influence even in silence. People begin to anticipate your judgment, not your approval. They seek alignment, not reassurance. This shift is subtle, but it reshapes how conversations unfold around you. Most people break consistency under pressure. Stress reveals fragmentation. Their voice tightens, their behavior accelerates, their composure collapses. This moment tells everyone watching exactly where their limits are. The disciplined individual treats pressure as neutral. Not because they feel nothing, but because they have trained themselves not to broadcast internal turbulence. This restraint suggests depth. Depth commands distance. Distance commands respect. Consistency should not be confused with rigidity. It is not emotional numbness or coldness. It is controlled responsiveness. You can engage, disagree, or assert boundaries without emotional distortion. Your expression remains proportional, never excessive. This proportionality signals maturity and internal governance. Others instinctively defer to those who appear self-governed, because self-governance implies the ability to govern situations. Over time, this steadiness becomes your reputation. People describe you as hard to read, grounded, or unshaken. These are not compliments, they are acknowledgments of psychological weight. When your presence does not fluctuate, others must adjust their behavior to meet you. They slow down. They choose their words carefully. They measure their tone. This adjustment is not requested, it is induced. This is how quiet dominance is established, not through force or performance, but through an internal consistency so complete that the external world stops expecting access to your emotional center. Information is power only when it is controlled. Most people misunderstand this and treat information as a tool for connection rather than leverage. They reveal their plans, their frustrations, their ambitions, and their fears under the illusion of transparency. What they are really doing is lowering their value. Every unnecessary detail given away removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is where power lies. Once people know your motives, they can anticipate your behavior. Once they can anticipate you, they can position themselves above you. Strategic restraint is not secrecy born of fear, it is discipline born of awareness. The elite do not withhold information to appear mysterious. They withhold it because they understand timing. Information released too early weakens its impact. Information released too freely loses its weight. When you speak selectively, your words gain density. People listen differently when they know access is limited. Most individuals overshare because they crave acknowledgement. They want to be seen, validated, and understood. This desire creates a constant outflow of personal data, emotional states, internal conflicts, future intentions. To an aware observer, this is exposure. Exposure invites influence. Those who reveal everything can be guided, pressured, or disrupted with precision. Those who reveal little remain difficult to maneuver. When others speak openly and you do not, a silent imbalance forms. They begin to feel exposed. Conversations tilt. They fill gaps with more explanation, more emotion, more detail. You gain insight without reciprocation. This is not manipulation. It is the natural consequence of asymmetrical disclosure. The one who knows more and reveals less holds the advantage. Withholding information also protects your internal world. Many people underestimate how easily outside opinions contaminate clarity. When you announce plans prematurely, you invite doubt, projection, and interference. Even supportive voices can weaken resolve by introducing alternatives, fears, or timelines you did not ask for. The disciplined individual moves first, speaks later. Results are revealed, not intentions. This preserves momentum and authority. Restraint also signals hierarchy. People instinctively sense when access must be earned. When you do not offer personal details freely, others assume there is a standard for entry. They adjust their behavior, their tone, and their curiosity. You do not need to assert boundaries aggressively. Boundaries are felt when information is not casually available. Most people mistake openness for authenticity. In reality, authenticity is alignment, not disclosure. You can be genuine without being exposed. You can be real without being transparent. The unaware believe honesty requires full access. The aware understand that honesty and restraint can coexist. You decide what serves the situation and what weakens your position. Information control also sharpens perception. When you are not busy explaining yourself, you observe more. You notice patterns, inconsistencies, emotional leaks in others. While they speak to be seen, you listen to understand. This difference compounds over time. You become more informed, more composed, more strategically positioned, while others remain visible but predictable. Ultimately, withholding information is not about power over others. It is about power over self. It is the refusal to give away leverage for comfort, the calm acceptance that not everyone deserves access, clarity, or context. When people cannot fully read you, they approach with caution. When they approach with caution, you control the pace. And when you control the pace, you control the interaction without ever needing to announce it. True dominance never asks to be seen. It is recognized before it is understood. Most people confuse presence with performance, believing that visibility creates authority. They raise their voice, exaggerate confidence, occupy space aggressively, and mistake attention for respect. In reality, this behavior signals insecurity. When someone needs to be noticed, it implies they fear being ignored. Power does not fear invisibility. It assumes relevance without demanding it. A quiet presence alters a room without movement. When you enter without scanning for approval, without adjusting your posture to impress, without rushing to establish identity, people feel the absence of need. That absence creates tension. Humans are conditioned to read cues quickly, but a composed, non-performing individual offers very few. This forces others to slow down, reassess, and recalibrate their behavior. Silence becomes pressure, not emptiness. The need to assert is a symptom of uncertainty. Those who are certain do not explain themselves unless necessary. They do not compete for dominance. They allow others to reveal their position through behavior. When you speak less, people project more. They assign depth, authority, or threat based on their own psychology. You do not need to manufacture intimidation. It emerges naturally when your presence refuses to negotiate for attention. Stillness is often mistaken for passivity, but stillness requires control. It takes discipline to remain unmoved when others escalate, to remain grounded when the environment becomes loud. Most people react instinctively to energy shifts. They match tone, speed, and emotion without awareness. The controlled individual does not mirror chaos. They remain unchanged, and this contrast unsettles those around them. Calmness in a reactive world reads as power because it suggests internal command. An understated presence also disrupts social expectations. People are used to clear signals, dominance displays, friendliness cues, emotional transparency. When those signals are absent, uncertainty fills the gap. Uncertainty heightens awareness. Others watch more closely. They choose words more carefully. They hesitate. You gain influence without issuing direction because people begin self-regulating in your proximity. Quiet dominance is reinforced by intentional movement. You do not rush. You do not interrupt. You do not over-explain. Your actions are deliberate, not reactive. This signals that your time and attention are not easily accessed. Scarcity applies not only to resources, but to presence. When your attention is limited, it becomes valuable. People sense this and adjust their approach accordingly. Most individuals reveal their need to be validated through behaviors, forced laughter, unnecessary agreement, constant engagement. These behaviors lower perceived status because they signal dependence on social feedback. The disciplined individual removes these signals. They do not over-respond. They do not fill silence to ease discomfort. They allow moments to remain unresolved. This restraint communicates that you are not governed by social pressure. Over time, this way of being reshapes perception. You are not seen as distant or cold, but as composed and difficult to categorize. People cannot easily place you into familiar social roles. This ambiguity creates psychological distance. Distance creates respect. Respect creates influence. None of this is requested or announced. It is induced through consistency. The most commanding individuals in any environment are rarely the loudest. They are the ones whose presence slows the room, whose silence carries weight, and whose attention feels earned rather than given. They do not need to dominate space because they dominate themselves. And that internal dominance is felt long before it is consciously recognized. An intimidating presence is not built through threat, force, or visible dominance. Those are crude tools used by people who lack internal command. True power is quieter and far more unsettling because it is rooted in self-governance. When your actions are intentional, your emotions regulated, and your decisions guided by awareness rather than impulse, people sense a depth they cannot access. They feel it without being able to name it, and what cannot be named is rarely challenged. Most people live externally. Their mood shifts with opinion, their confidence fluctuates with approval, and their behavior adapts to whoever holds attention in the room. This external orientation makes them readable. Readability invites control. The self-governed individual operates from the inside out. Their reactions are filtered through restraint. Their words are measured against consequence. Their silence is chosen, not accidental. This internal discipline creates psychological separation. Others may stand near you, but they do not feel equal to you. Self-governance begins with awareness of impulse. The urge to respond, to explain, to defend, to impress. These impulses feel natural, but they are signals of unconscious behavior. Most people obey them automatically. The disciplined individual observes them without acting. This gap between impulse and action is where authority is forged. When you consistently choose not to react, others lose access to your emotional center. They cannot provoke you into revealing leverage. An intimidating aura also comes from coherence. Your values, behavior, and boundaries align without contradiction. People sense when someone cannot be pushed into compromising themselves for comfort or acceptance. This integrity is rare, and rarity commands respect. When you are not internally divided, external pressure loses effectiveness. Others feel this resistance, even when no conflict exists. It changes how they approach you. Strength at this level is not visible effort. It is ease under pressure. When you remain composed in situations that unsettle others, it signals experience and internal stability. People assume you have seen more, endured more, or understand more than you reveal. They adjust their behavior accordingly. You are no longer someone to test casually. You become someone to measure oneself against. The unaware often mistake intimidation for aggression. In reality, aggression is a loss of control. Raised voices, forced confidence, and confrontational behavior are emotional leaks. They reveal insecurity and desperation for dominance. The self-governed individual does not compete for hierarchy. They occupy their position naturally. Others either rise to meet it or step aside. No announcement is necessary. Over time, this way of being creates distance without hostility. People are careful around you, not because you demand it, but because your presence carries consequence. They think before speaking. They hesitate before acting. They sense that access to you requires alignment, not entitlement. This is the final stage of quiet power, when your internal order restructures the external environment. Very few people reach this level because it requires relentless self-discipline and the willingness to be misunderstood. It requires choosing long-term authority over short-term comfort. But once established, it cannot be taken away easily, because it does not depend on status, volume, or recognition. It depends on mastery of self, and that is the only form of power that does not decay. If this sharpened your awareness, like the video, and subscribe not for motivation, but for alignment with higher level thinking. The most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest, it is the one who sees everything and reveals nothing. Sit with that.